Good afternoon, 24th of August, and it's a lovely day outside. Unfortunately today we were planning to take you outside for a little trip around a couple of spots, but I had a bit of trouble getting some last minute access to one of them, so we decided we'd do this in here again this week. Being brought to my attention that I'm starting to look like a stodgy old man sitting behind a desk, so next week we're going to go on a roadshow, unless it's bucketing down with rain, and then I'll be a stodgy old man sitting behind a desk again. A couple of things this week. We've got some consultation out at the moment about whether dogs should be allowed in the CBD, and it's open on the website now until the feedback closes on the 23rd of December, so that gives plenty of time. In fact, it gives too much time. Don't leave it to the last minute to give us your feedback on that. We've also got a survey up that closes this Sunday on the 30th of August. Guess what that topic's about? Your favourite topic, my favourite topic. So there's for the submissions on the trial section of Devon Street West. Sorry, can you just go and pull those doors shut? Thanks. I'm looking in there and I'm seeing Lisa struggling to want to listen to me. Thanks, Chungy. So we'd really love to get your submissions on that. It's really important that you do. I just checked this morning. We've got, as of 10 o'clock this morning, there are 984 submissions on the trial section of that road to give us some input on what the rest of it could or should look like. I was hoping we'd get 7,000 actually, but I don't think we're going to at this point. Apparently we've had 7,000 submissions previously on that stretch of road. And the other one we've got today going out is the agenda. I see it's a couple of days late this week for our Thursday meeting. There is quite a big topic in that one. The topic in that should be quite important to a lot of people, if you're a believer of democracy, is our voting system for next term. The topic in that is tab 7 from memory, and it is around whether we have first past the post or single transferable vote. It's even difficult to say. So that's actually quite a big thing for a lot of people who believe in democratic process, and we'd really love to go through that process as we have to. It's actually compulsory. We have to do that this term. There's a part of me that says, given that we are having a local government shuffle that in 2028, that it's a little bit soon, but we have to do it now to get the statutory deadlines before the Electoral Commission. So it's happening this month. So please tune in, see what we have to say about it on Thursday. And with that, we'll get into some questions. I think we've got 19 this week. I'm going to stop it. I'm not going to take any more questions today. There's a couple of things that have come to my attention. We're really struggling to get some of these answers that are single topic specific back to people. I'm finding that I'm getting questions through on Messenger as well and texting me as well. And the time to respond to single topics are quite difficult given everything that's going on. So what I'm going to ask is if you have a topic that is specific to yourself or your property, could you please send me an email or put an email address in with your question. So, although that's difficult in a public space, right? How can we manage that, Tony?
We can private message the question and email through.
So you're pulling them off the comments, right, at the moment?
Yeah. So instead of commenting, they can send it as a private message.
Okay. Did that show up? So instead of just commenting, could you just send it as a private message, and we'll pick them up and we'll put them through the machine here and get an answer. And the reason I say that is I've got a question here from Mick. Why have my rates gone up 20% this year? So Mick, without knowing your property, I can't answer that question, but I can tell you that you're not the only one that's answered a question like that. So we've got a list of different people that have asked a similar question here that we're working through. And what we've done is we've gone back, I've got the staff, they're going back to 2022. Does that show up on the screen? I've deliberately covered up the property. Oh, no, I haven't. Now I've deliberately covered up the property name here, the address. So I'm as interested as you are in to find out what's going on with the rate stuff this year, because it wasn't intended to work like that. And it may not have been communicated as well. We've had a bit of a session with Ratepayers Alliance last week. And we're quite happy to have a look at everybody who's got an issue with their rates gone up more than they think they should have. We're quite happy to have a look at it and see what we can't work out or how we can help explain it better. So a question here from Sandy, what happens if I simply can't afford to pay my rates and water bills? Well, Sandy, again, it's personal circumstances, I understand that. We also have a rating remission team here that help people through that, and financial hardship is one of the topics. So is that a summary or was that the actual question? Did you summarise that?
That's the actual question.
That's the actual question, yeah. Look, Sandy, we have a team sitting downstairs that go through this with people and try and help as much as they can. I guess the thrust of your question really is about, can we slow the increases down? And that's what we're working on at the moment, and that's what we're working on through this long-term plan process. Multiple questions around the same topic. Ellen, I want a reasonable breakdown of the ongoing operation expenditure at the Len Centre. Also from Alison, can we see a detailed breakdown of what makes up the cost to run the Len Centre? Yes, you can, and actually I think there's a number of councillors that have made some statements about that on Facebook. They're going to ask for that, and there is some information that is on our website right now, I believe, as to what it is. But I just want to give you Glenn McLean. Here's a plug for you, Glenn. He did an article this morning that scans across a few different council departments. So he did a bit of work last week. He's come up with this here. It's the Len Centre is 2% of council's operating costs. Now that's not a small number at 120,000 a week, but at 2%, it's not a big percentage. So if you think about it, if we were to reduce the costs of that by half, if we reduce the Len Centre's cost by half, that's 1% of our annual spend on operating costs. So look, these are all decisions that we have to make up as part of the greater whole that we have to go through with the long-term plan. And it's really important that we get people's feedback. That's what this is about. It's about getting people's feedback about what they want for the coming 10 years. And if people are telling us that we need to look harder at one area or another, this is the time to start doing it. And that's what we're starting to do here as a council. Same question again from Chris. I think I just answered, Chris, what are you doing? Where are you at with reducing costs for running the Len Centre? And then a question here from Morris. Hello Morris, how are you doing? What deals were reached with the Len Foundation regarding the gallery and storing their collection at ratepayers' expense? I sense, Morris, knowing you, that you know the answer to that question already, and I certainly don't know what deals might have been reached back. That was a few years ago now. There'll be something in the trust deeds that relate to that. There must be some stuff here about that. Morris, if you know something, can you please contact me? There's a lot of people that have different things floating around in their head, and whether they're based on opinion or fact is always interesting to find out. So I'd welcome finding out what we can on that. Question from Steve, how much is the artwork not on display worth? What does it cost to insure, and what direct weekly revenue does the Len Centre actually bring in? 3 questions, all rolled into one. I believe the art display is around $25 million. A lot of it apparently was bequeathed, and therefore it's up to the Len or the Gavette Brewster Art Gallery as well. The weekly revenue, and I did get some numbers here. It's actually quite a lot to digest. There's a lot of information here that the finance team manage and the staff manage. It's not a 5-minute job just to spit it all out. But if I look at this here, the expenses that were recovered, or the royalties, there's different lines of revenue. Then there's donations and there's grants. And then it's whether it's an annualised cost or a weekly cost. And to be honest, this Monday morning. I haven't had time to look at that in detail yet. There's a lot of information to go through, and it's actually important to note that the finance team are looking at this and keeping an eye on it. The insurance costs are part of what we do for the organisation, and again, have a look at that. It's actually not in this section, insurance cost. Or if it is, it's under a different name. No, it must be under our total insurance policy. And as to the revenue, I think it's around $15,000 a week, but I'd have to double check that number. I think that includes some of the films, some of that work that they do down there as well. And I'm pretty sure that whatever it brings in, the net cost still is around $120,000 a week. Question here from Robin. What is the weekly cost of running the aquatic centre, and how does it compare to running the Len Lye Centre? I think if you have a look at Glenn's article, Robin, you'll see there's some stuff in there on that. Is there a comparison? I draw a question in my mind. Is there a comparison between the Len Lye Centre and the aquatic centre for people? So if you look at what the aquatic centre does and how many people go through that, and the pools around the district, they cater for a wide range of people, actually. Question from Pete, is the West End Precinct project going to come in on budget? I believe it is, Pete. I haven't heard otherwise. It's certainly not quite coming in on time. There's been a few delays down there lately. We're just pushing the team that are working on that to get that project finished right now. Multiple questions. Footpaths. End of road. When will a footpath from Sally at the end of Wills Road be extended to Bell Block Beach? I think when the walkway goes through, that will get tidied up down there, I believe. Have you been down there lately? Have you been down Wills Road lately?
No,
Either of you? It stops short, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We'll go and have a look at that, Sally, and just make sure. A question from Darren. The footpaths along Carrington Street around the roundabout are in terrible condition. What is the council going to do about them? Right now, Darren, probably very little. There was no money in the footpath budget that we inherited as a council, and we're just looking at putting some back in this year. If they are a safety hazard, that's another matter. I'll get someone to go up there and have a look at that for you. Make sure they're not. If it's just a general maintenance item, it will probably not going to be this year, to be honest with you. And a question here from Gerald. How soon will we get to know about the removal of the Tim Tams? So the trial period ends on the 30th of September, and in the October meeting there will be a paper come back to council about the future of Devon Street West. I think I'm going to take that question offline for the next few rounds, Tony. Let me be very clear, there will be a paper come before council. Council will make a decision in the October meeting about the future of Devon Street West. And as to Lake Rodamanu, J. Ray, sorting out the clam issue and reopening Rodamanu, that's a TRC issue. I speak to them regularly, or semi-regularly about that, because as you know, we share a chief executive. It's not just in our hands, it's also in the hands of MPI, and that decision is part of what they go through at Regional Council. We're not yet part of Regional Council. And a question here from Neil, when will a new leisure boating marina be completed? I sense, Neil, that you know somebody that asked you to ask that question, but look, Neil, the marina, a leisure boating marina, that's part of the port setup, and we don't control the port. We can ask them, and we have, but it's not a New Plymouth District Council decision. It is a port decision down at the port, and also that's part of TRC. But even the TRC can't direct them to do that. So if people want a marina down there, then I suggest that the fishing club, the cruising club that are down there, and the people that are directly involved in that come and make a deputation to both TRC and the MPDC. And if you come into MPDC, come into the Public Engagement Committee as a group and get it put into our system so that we can start advocating through our processes to TRC to get something done. I know it's been a thing of chongies for a long time, but we need the support of people out in the world before we can start spending the money or can ask for that to be spent. So with TRC going through everything they're going through, I don't think it's going to be a focus of theirs. It's a port issue, and as they develop the port down that end, I'm sure the port will be looking at something in some form down at that end. Catherine, can we get rid of card-only parking meters so elderly shoppers aren't confused? And what can be done to small businesses losing customers to free parking at the Valley? There's a couple of parts to that question, Catherine, I think. So we laid the parking meter debate on the table at the last meeting round, which meant that staff got instructed to go away and do some more work on what the parking meters and what the parking costs in town could look like, because there was a number of councillors that weren't happy with what that paper presented to us. So we will be seeing a paper coming back. There'll be some different options. Amongst them will be to consider what a free parking period would look like. And as to small businesses losing customers to the free parking at the Valley, I think there's two parts to that question. One is we have to make the environment downtown right, but also people that go to some of these businesses, and I had a debate with a couple of councillors over the weekend on this, people go out to the Valley to visit those big stores. And this is a problem that all countries around the world have grappled with. Big stores that need big box retail, they move out of the centre city to get the space they need to display their goods. And that's what draws people as much as the free parking. It's not just the free parking at the Valley. It's also the fact that those stores are what those stores are. And I'm not criticising them, it's just the way that it's been the evolution of shopping over the years. So small businesses in town, look, we're looking to help them, and we have got that paper coming back next month. And I'm sure that you'll see some different options that were presented to council last time included in that paper for the next round. Perry, what has happened to the police patrols around the CBD? As far as I know, Perry, they're still going. I've been down there at different times during the week, and I see them walking around and doing their stuff still. I've actually got a meeting with the police commander this week. I'll raise the question, have they reduced? Because my understanding is they haven't. Tautio, how does the council plan to fix our growing homelessness problem? Well, to be honest, mate, we need some buy-in from the government agencies. We can't do it on our own. We have set up a group working with government agencies, and most of them are very enthusiastic about doing something. The claim always is there's not enough money. If we pick all that up, it becomes totally at the ratepayers' cost, and I'm not prepared to do that. So we're doing what we can. The YMCA are working pretty hard doing what they're doing. There's other agencies, the Salvation Army, doing quite a good bit of good work, but they can't do everything. And volunteer organisations still need to be funded. So part of what I've been doing is advocating to our MP and to the government. They did release some funds in this last month. They've committed some funds for the next year. Unfortunately, it's not enough. And it's actually a New Zealand-wide problem, not just isolated to New Plymouth. Mehana, why hasn't MPDC contacted me about the Bell Block to Watcher walkway compensation owed for the airport? I'm sorry. Sorry, Mehana, I have no idea what you're talking about. Would you like to send me an email? There's a bit more to your question there. Section 133 Watcher West and Puketapu Hapu leases. I have no knowledge of what you're asking there, Mahana. And Karen, what are the Mayor and Council prepared to do to ensure we are not complicit in the war in Gaza, such as ending council purchase of Israeli goods and investments in Israeli companies? I'm not sure that we are, actually. I know during our Audit and Risk Committee we had a discussion about a recent court ruling around this, and I believe our investment company will be looking at that also and making sure that we're compliant with everything we need to be compliant with. A question here from Karen, why is our rubbish trucked out of Taranaki? Simply because our previous council signed up for that, and it's on a very, very long-term contract, and the rates given at the time were very good. So right now we would have to break a long-term contract, which would cost a lot of money, I would imagine. Actually, it would cost a lot of money to cancel that contract and build a dump down at Eltham. And let everyone please understand, the dump at Eltham was never fully established. It had the road put in, it had some establishment work done, at which point the out-of-town company that are doing that rubbish trucking down to Martin, they came through with an offer which was accepted. I believe that contract has got in excess of 10 years on it to run at the moment. Question from Neil, the last one. When will the roundabout at Airport Drive be started? Sorry, we've got some rumbling going through this building. When will the roundabout at Airport Drive be started? My understanding is it started in the next construction season. I had some advice this morning that NZTA are about to go out to tender. I certainly am keeping an eye on that. I'm actually really interested in the 3A intersection too, which they've said there's no funding for, as well as Awakino, as well as Mount Messenger. There's a lot happening in the roading space. Right, ladies and gentlemen, that's a quick 23 minutes today. I'll just wrap up with one last thing, that this week we will be finalising the process to appoint a new Chief Executive to this organisation. Steve Ruru's appointment ends on the 20th of September, and we are very actively looking to get a replacement for Steve. It's been a great nearly 6 months. He's given us a lot of advice, which I greatly value, and he's been very good bouncing ideas off for the future of local government amalgamation. Unfortunately, every time we bounce some ideas around, the goalposts seem to move at a government level, but at least we've got some direction now, and in the next couple of weeks we will be making an announcement on who Steve's replacement will be, so I look forward to that. Thank you. I'll see you next week.